think of bad teams, what comes to mind? This year's Warriors? Or maybe the Cavaliers? But even these two teams have had their moments of greatness. However, the Knicks are a special case. For 20 years, the Knicks have somehow managed to consistently be terrible. They've somehow become sort of a meme. But how have they done that? What went wrong? They didn't always used to be terrible. What is going on, everyone? If you're enjoying the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let's try and figure this out. They won a championship in 1970 and 1973, but since then nothing has seemed to go right. Although they seem to be a bad team, they have had some notable players such as Bill Bradley, Patrick Ewing, Willis Reed and Carmelo Anthony. And fun fact, have you ever wondered why they're called the Knicks? Well, it's short for Knickerbockers. With a name like that, what exactly do you expect from a franchise? In fact, they're so bad, they actually rank 30th within the simple rating systems. And when thinking of title contending teams, this is probably the last team that comes to mind. Not only this, but they had managed to lose 2-8 to the worst team in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers. It even sounds like the team president Steve Mills has given up. He said in an interview that they aren't happy with where they are. Even though they are the team that is worth the most amount of money, they seem to be worthless. Let's rewind to the 1984-85 season, where they had a record of 24-46 with 12 games left to play. And in typical Knicks fashion, they managed to lose all 12 and ended the season with 24-58. You don't need to be a genius to figure out that that was the worst record in the season. But now, 1985 was here, and they had gotten their first ever draft lottery pick, and they had the number 1 pick. They had to get this right because at this point they were a laughingstock. Lucky for them, they had picked Patrick Ewing. This guy was going to turn the franchise around. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this way. Although he was a great player and was the best rookie coming out of the season, they somehow lost 17 of their 21 final games to go with a record of 24-58. Needless to say, the coach at the time, Bob Hill, was dismissed. However, it's 1987 and now the Knicks were desperate for someone to help. Enter Rick Pitino as head coach and Mark Jackson as point guard. Mark was the Rookie of the Year and was considered for MVP. It was looking good for the Knicks until the season ended. They had a record of 38-44. As bad as that was, they somehow managed to make the playoffs, but that was short-lived, having been knocked out of the playoff by the Celtics. However, there was still hope as this record was better than before. The next season, the Knicks made an amazing move, trading Bill Cartwright for the power forward Charles Oakley. This move meant that the Knicks went 52-30 and headed to the playoffs, where they managed to defeat the Sixers. However, they lost to the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference. For once, the Knicks were actually looking to eventually be a title contender. However, for some reason, Pitino had left for the University of Kentucky, and Stu Jackson was his replacement. Jackson led the Knicks to a 45-37 record, which was pretty good. They had managed to get past the first round, beating the Celtics, but unfortunately lost to the Pistons, who had ended up winning the championship. Now let's fast forward to a somewhat modern time. In 2010, the Knicks and former Phoenix Suns forward center Amar'e Stoudemire came to an agreement on July 5th, 2010. The sign and trade deal was made official on July 8th as Stoudemire agreed to an approximately $100 million contract over the span of 5 years. Team president Donnie Walsh stated the signing of Stoudemire as a turning point for the future of a Knicks team that has struggled in recent years. The Knicks continued to redesign their roster, trading David Lee to the Golden State Warriors for Anthony Randolph, Kelena Azubuike and Ronnie Turiaf. The Knicks also struck deals with former Bobcats point guard Raymond Felton and Russian center Timothy Mozgov. The Knicks regained their title as the most valuable franchise in NBA following these deals, though this was mainly due to the arrival of Stoudemire, whose star power allowed the team to resurge. The Knicks sold out their full season ticket inventory for the first time since 2002. They started to reclaim their throne and was starting to look like a good team. Carmelo Anthony was really helping out the franchise as he made sure that they got their first winning season since 2001. However, in the playoffs they were swept by the Celtics. In 2012, people got their first view of Jeremy Lin as he became their starter after playing a 25-point, 7-assist game off the bench. Lin guided the Knicks to a 7-game winning streak, despite being without Anthony and Amare Stoudemire for 5 games. However, they had lost Jeremy Lin to the Houston Rockets, and now things weren't looking too good since Amare Stoudemire was injured. On June 24th, 2015, the Knicks selected Kristaps Porzingis with the 4th overall pick in the draft, and traded Tim Hardaway Jr. to the Atlantic Hawks in exchange for Jerian Grant, the 19th overall pick. Midway through another losing season, Fisher was relieved of his coaching duties, with Kurt Rambis being named as interim head coach as the Knicks finished the season with a record of 32-50. Jeff Hornacek was then hired as their next head coach, which also oversaw Jackson's most notable acts as an executive. On June 22nd, former NBA MVP Derrick Rose was traded, along with Justin Holiday and a second-round pick from Chicago, to New York in exchange for Robin Lopez, Jose Calderon and Grant. The Knicks also signed Joakim Noah and Brandon Jennings and Courtney Lee to contracts worth a combined $127 million and regressed the following season, causing the franchise to part ways with Jackson after 3 years as the Knicks president of basketball operations. Under Jackson's presidency, the Knicks had gone a terrible 80-166, suffered 3 consecutive losing seasons, and missed 3 consecutive playoffs. In his last act prior to leaving the Knicks, Jackson selected Frank Ntilikina with the 8th overall pick, Damian Dotson with the 44th overall pick, and Jarames with the 58th overall pick in the 2017 NBA Draft. On May 15, 2018, the Knicks were awarded the 9th overall pick in 2018 NBA Draft and selected Kevin Knox from Kentucky. The team also acquired Mitchell Robinson with the 36th overall pick and signed former lottery pick Mario Hezonja. Porzingis was traded on January 30, 2019, alongside Trey Burke, Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews and Dennis Smith Jr. Also an unprotected 2021 first-round draft pick and an additional top 10 2023 protected first-round draft pick. In preparation for the 2019-20 season, and as a result of having a record $74 million in cap space following the Porzingis trade, the team divided it among 5 new signings. The Knicks agreed terms with the veteran role players Wayne Ellington and Taj Gibson, with forward Bobby Portis also signing. The team then signed former lottery picks Elfrid Payton and Julius Randle. On February 4, 2020, the Knicks fired Steve Mills after 7 seasons as president, with Scott Perry taking over on an interim basis. On March 2nd, Leon Rose was named president of the team. Let's take a look at this starting lineup for a second. Taj Gibson, Julius Randle, Maurice Harkless, RJ Barrett and Elfrid Payton. When the best player on your team is averaging 19 points and 2 of them are averaging single digits, something is so terribly wrong. The Knicks are the result of bad coaching and bad players. For some reason, the Knicks just cannot get any good players, and they have to rely on young talent because they've trapped themselves. If you have bad players, you can't just trade them for good players all of a sudden, unless some freak deal occurs. So instead they have to turn themselves to the draft and hope and pray that they get lucky from a good pick. And even then they have to hope that they decide to stay long enough that the Knicks can keep finding these young players. Once they get themselves a decent team, then they can start to look towards some star power to help boost themselves into the team that they had used to be.
trophy.